This week on Hip Hop Now podcast, controversy over the Kendrick Lamar video, Humble. Suge Knight's ex-wife being accused of putting a hit out on Suge Knight that got Tupac killed. And my review of Joey Badass's best album.
But let's get right to the business. Read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone. Classic album. Gunmen Hip Hop Podcast.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip-hop, music, and culture right here on DSR.FM, Death Star Radio. Download the app. See, I'm messing up already. Download the app today on iOS or Android, or you can just go to DSR.FM. Check out the podcast. Follow me on social media at Vegas World INC. And I just want to say a quick note that does not really include Facebook, right? Because that's not really my tag for this show on Facebook. When you put in Vegas World INC, when it comes to Facebook, you go to my hip hop page where, you know, I do a little 1-2 or whatever. I've been rhyming before I've been doing a radio thing, so don't get it twisted. But that, you know, I'm sure, go there if you like what you like, you like. But if you come in for like, yo, where's the podcast joint? Where's that on Facebook? That is facebook.com/hip-hop right now. Facebook.com/hip-hop right now. And not only do I post the podcast there, I also share stories that I see across Facebook, across the internet or whatever. So a lot of the stories I'll talk about, a lot of the videos or whatever I'll see that I'm like, yo, this is pretty dope. People should check this out. Like that Tupac trailer, that would look pretty dope. I'm interested now. All of that's there. So facebook.com/hip-hop right now. But if Snapchat, Instagram, or Twitter is your bag, even Google Plus or Play or Plus, I think it's Plus. Yeah. Vegas World INC is how you follow me on social media. Let's get right into the business, though. DMX didn't understand that if you put a tweet out that says you're looking for trap beats, we think DMX is looking for trap beats. But turns out that was not the case. DMX put out a tweet originally. I didn't even know DMX was on Twitter, so maybe I'll follow him. Got to be entertaining. Maybe more so Instagram if he's on there. But he put out a tweet that said, you know, looking for trap beats. And, you know, of course, the internet police rolled up, you know what I'm saying, pulled up on the sidewalk, and Twitter went crazy. Then he had to reiterate or edit and say, nah, actually, I'm looking for trap beats for my man who's affiliated with Rough Riders, for trap beats for him. And I thought it was pretty funny and kind of hypocritical of the Twitter fans, and I'm putting up the quote signs, to kind of go in, because I just want to know, and that doesn't mean it was everybody, but I just want to know if everybody knows that DMX put out a mixtape with Swiss Beats maybe a month or two ago that was pretty hot, like pretty traditional DMX, and it didn't contain any trap beats. From what I remember, I don't remember hearing anything like that. So if you're a DMX fan, do not be afraid. He's not switching up or trying to, you know, conform to what people want. He's just looking for beats for his man who does the trap thing. That's it. Don't get angry. Eminem and his longtime manager, Paul Rosenberg, have been doing this 7-Eleven series thing. And Eminem had been posting videos of pictures of him at different 7-Elevens with the hashtag 7-Eleven series. And he did one. He had a selfie recently with Paul Rosenberg, longtime manager, that was saying, like, you know, it's been a long time. Hashtag 7-Eleven series. It's safe to say that it's about time we get a new Eminem album. We know how that goes when Eminem drops. He's probably going to go diamond. I know there's some people who are really into Eminem. There's some people who don't like Eminem whatsoever, because of the content of some of his music. And I get it. I mean, but you can apply that to any artist. You know what I'm saying? I know people who really don't like Kendrick. Just don't. Or J. Cole. I know some people who think J. Cole is completely boring every time. Not just his last album. So it's really like, fans of Eminem, and I consider myself one of those fans, are excited. I'm kind of cautiously excited because I think once Eminem stopped doing the same thing that was getting tired on that Encore album, which was, the Slim Shady Scary Man thing, and he started honing more into what his albums would sound like and perfecting the styles. Like if he was going to go to a Slim Shady, he really dug in with that, what was it, Relapse, with that album. And then when he did, Relapse and Reborn, I don't know, Redemption, one of them joints. He had the one that was still kind of crazy, but it was like horrorcore hip hop. This was after that Encore album. And then he kind of had the album where he was a different Eminem. He still rhymed and all of that, but he was more introspective about his life and his experiences, as opposed to taking those experiences and putting them behind the mind of a rapping serial killer or something like that. So I feel like this album, if anything, will probably be more politically charged than anything, which I think Eminem is excellent at, because maybe it's my second. I go between the Marshall Mathers LP and the Eminem Show. Those are his two best albums. I really like the Eminem Show a lot because, like, White America, that track, like, he did some really charged up political records. And I think if he went in that lane with the music, just like somebody else, a couple of people I'm going to mention a little bit later in this program, I would, look, me personally, I would love that. I know some people find that boring, but when you have things that are happening in the world and you have artists who have the talent and the eyes and ears to speak about it, be seen, I think you should take that opportunity, because there's enough people, partying where, we don't have to get bored. B.O.B. reveals the cover art and release date for his album, which is entitled Ether. I really only read that because of the long-going argument for some that Jay-Z won that battle versus Nas. If there is no evidence whatsoever as to who won, besides the stuff we already know that we're not going to go over, because I went over in the older podcast, you can check it out, soundcloud.com/hiphoppolitic, where the P and the hop and the politic, they share the P together, right? It's on there. Jay-Z Nas beef episode. I believe I talked about it. But when the title of your diss record not only becomes slang within hip-hop culture, but someone puts out a diss record called Sheether to basically destroy another MC in this female battle, Remy Ma, right? And it's already a slang word, right? Now you have dude just going to name his whole album Ether. Come on, man. The proof is in the pudding. But it's B.O.B., so I don't think I care that much. But shout out to the B.O.B. fans. Maybe there are other people who do more than I. Snoop Dogg has a new album called Never Left. Release date. Snoop, we know you've never left because you're always on TV. Now, look, I'm going to say this real quick about Snoop, man. There's this thing, and this is probably not so much for the younger listener out there, and I won't say that because it's not that you can't go back and like older albums just as much as I do, but having been there, for the people who've been there from Doggy Style to his last album, Kool-Aid, and I know it just sounds like that last album some garbage because it's called Kool-Aid, but let me tell you like this, Snoop has a couple of good albums. It's not just Doggy Style and then he fell off. Doggy Style, of course, classic, dope album, can't be denied. The Dogfather was garbage, right? And that's when we kind of thought Snoop fell off, because the Dogfather was garbage for the most part. Then he went to not Cash Money. He went to No Limit with Master P, and he was basically rhyming over Manny Fresh beats, which did not work whatsoever. Put out 2 albums. That first album on No Limit was trash. The second album was mostly trash, but the song that he had with Exhibit, which I believe Dr. Dre produced, was like, yo, this is old Snoop. Please give us more of this. And then when he had his last album on No, the reason why I didn't say the title is because this is a family podcast, but it's called Be Please. Just, you know what the B stands for. But the album right after that, called The Last Meal, was Snoop, his independence album, meaning this was his last album for No Limit, and from there on, he was going to broker deals for himself. Even though he still worked with companies and stuff like that, he was going to become his own boss, which he did, which has worked out well for him. But that Last Meal album was kind of dope. It had a lot of production from Dre. I think some of the Manny Fresh records kind of worked finally. He had the stuff with Timbaland was okay, but he went on to have other dope albums like Paid the Cost to Be the Boss. I really like Rhythm and Gangsta. It took me a minute, but I like that marriage between him and Pharrell. It was different, but it worked for Snoop. But probably the other album besides Doggy Style that I feel like is a classic for Snoop is the closest he ever came to giving you that old Snoop, which was the Blue Carpet Treatment. Again, heavily produced by Dr. Dre. And every time Snoop is on a Dr. Dre record, it's like his rap game goes right back to what it was. So to me, if you could do that, then this album title is fitting. You know what I'm saying? Never Left, meaning we'll probably get some Dre tunes on there. We'll probably get some of those traditional Snoop sounds. So yeah, man, don't sleep on Snoop. Plus, he put out an album that I don't think anybody, including myself, knew, with him and Daz. And it wasn't bad at all. But I don't think anybody knew, or maybe nobody cared. Who knows? Wale's new album, Shine, he released the album cover and track listing. I checked it out. Wale sometimes with me is hit or miss. I like Wale because I know he can be a dope MC, but at the same time, sometimes he gets stuck between trying to be this successful commercial artist, which he has been. He has a number of singles that have been successful, but that's really not his bag. That's not his fan base. You know what I'm saying? At least to me, I feel like he's best when he's allowed to be lyrical the way he knows how to be. I think he could be very dope, but he keeps playing in that same lane of, he puts himself next to Kendrick and J. Cole and Drake and Big Sean and even Meek Mill, but he's the only one that doesn't sit in the lane that they're best at. Everybody else does, including Meek Mill. Like, Meek does what Meek does. That's what he does, right? If you know Meek Mill, that's what he does, right? But when it comes to Wale, sometimes with the albums, I feel like, yo, this ain't your... Same thing with Big Sean. I'd be like, yo, man, this ain't your strength. Like, yeah, you get a couple of spins, but we know how spins work nowadays. They don't always work whether we like it or not. Sometimes we are forced to listen to some of the music. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. It's entitled Shine. And the cover is like pink with a globe on it with a baby hand touching the globe. Whatever, man. I'll just listen to it when it comes out. Suge Knight's ex-wife is heated over this Tupac murder theory that basically implicates her in the death of Tupac. Now, the documentary that this theory is coming from, it was released, I believe, in December of 2016. I recently watched it because Suge Knight was co-signing it as far as who did the murder and who made the hit. And he really talked about this documentary having a lot of information in regards to what was going on behind the scenes. So I guess it's more like well, it ain't snitching if they said it. You know what I'm saying? If this is true. So I watched the documentary, and it's called Tupac Assassination. I think The War for Compton, something like that, right? I watched it. I feel like don't get me wrong, it's a very interesting and good watch, but there was a couple of times where I felt like they were cutting to different interviews where they were taking certain statements out of an interview. Like that's like if I'm in an interview, right, and I'm like, yeah, as far as I know, Tupac was murdered by this person, you know what I'm saying, by Suge Knight. And maybe they cut it up to where it's like Tupac was murdered by Suge Knight, and that's all you hear from me. I have a problem with that because we don't have the context of the full statement from that person when you chopping up pieces like that. And this documentary basically takes pieces from all the documentaries you've seen, all the theories you've heard about, but the only reason why it's worth watching is the LAPD part of that, and the Compton PD part of that, and the political side, and all the ties to death row through family and relationships and business. And it's that side of it that makes it very interesting. It even gets to the point where not only is his ex-wife being implicated in trying to kill Suge Knight, they also implicate Snoop Dogg, which I was like, you know what I'm saying? All of that is implicated in a lot of ways, and it's one of those things where, I mean, of course you got to take it with a grain of salt. You don't know if this documentary is just really trying to get people to buy it or rent it like I did, get some sales up, if it's not just another theory. Again, none of it's coming directly from the people who we know are involved in one way or another. It dispels all the Puffy, did this to that with Suge Knight and blah, blah, blah. And it really talks more about it being about Suge Knight and the things he was doing, and how Tupac was just more like an innocent bystander. So it was kind of like, well, he's in the car, he riding with him, he's just going to catch the beef. You know what I'm saying? So I felt it was interesting from that standpoint, if you into looking at all the different theories. But I'm going to tell you like this. There was a point where I never used to watch any of that stuff, right? Never. And then I started kind of watching some of it, just to see, and it got interesting. But having seen all the different theories, from implicating Puff to implicating Snoop in this case, to Suge himself, to the Crips, to the Bloods, to the East Coast, West Coast beef, all of these different things that means, oh, well, Biggie died because of this and Tupac died because of that. At some point, it's going to come out. It is. It just is. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes from Suge himself, unless he had something to do with it. I wouldn't be surprised if he's looking at this current situation where they're basically squeezing the juice out of him because of what happened. And if he's found guilty and it's like, you're going under the jail, you're never coming out, you're going to die in here, I could see Suge Knight just saying, well, if I snitch, they'll never get to me. So, or will they? Because it's cops involved. Who knows? But it's interesting. But at the same time, if you feel like you're exhausted, trust me, don't even waste your time. First of all, I didn't do this, but let me shout out hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com, and these other sites for which I'm getting some of these stories. But Master P has his own biopic coming out called King of the South, and he's taking auditions. I think I wouldn't mind seeing a Master P biopic, because I think his story is extremely interesting. Let's not get it twisted. Regardless of how you may feel about some Southern rappers, not all, some in particular, they owe a lot to Master P and No Limit. Because And I say that doesn't mean there wasn't people before them. We know about Outkast and Goody Mob. We know about them. We know. I only say they owe a lot because of the simple fact that the way the South is embedded in hip hop culture as it is today is because of No Limit. Hear me out, right? And you may know this already. But the thing is, when it came to No Limit Records, see, they extended beyond. Like, there were Southern rappers who had fans in other states, but they were far in between. Like, I didn't grow up with a lot of people who were big Outkast fans. I know a lot of Ghetto Boys fans and maybe Scarface, but not so much Outkast, not so much Goody Mob. Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't overwhelming. I knew people who liked them, but it wasn't overwhelming. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, right? And it didn't dominate the radio at all. But a lot of us are hip hop fans and we sought it out, you know what I'm saying? But there was no UGK on the radio. A lot of people didn't even know about UGK, including myself. I always would see UGK, but like in the Source magazine or something, like an advertisement, but I never felt compelled, or I didn't know they were as good as they are or were or whatever until later. But with No Limit, I remember when No Limit was dropping albums with the cheap album covers, and he put out that hip hop movie, you know, on his own dime. That kind of became a tradition. But he put out Bout It, and just exposing other cities and other states to the culture through a number of means, not just records, because obviously there's certain records that people liked and there's certain records that people didn't, but because he had a movie, because he had like backstage tour footage and you know, all these different things, we kind of got to know him on a full scale. And then, you know, the records were hitting the top of the charts, and Cash Money benefited from that, because then you're looking like, well, Master P is doing all of this and he's independent. So the record companies really couldn't jump in his pockets like that, because he created that stuff mostly on his own. So they started looking for other groups and labels that could do the same thing. And Cash Money benefited from that as well. And so on and so forth. As it, you know, as time went on, a number of artists have benefited from the efforts of No Limit and Master P. And I remember in the beginning, you know, of course, as a New Yorker, we like a certain type of rap. And, you know, when I first heard Master P, I'm like, damn, this dude can't really rap to me like that. But that's not what attracted me to his music or his label after a while. It was more so their mission, you know what I'm saying? Their swag, the story of where they're from. You know what I'm saying? The ghetto, I come from the ghetto and I can relate to their ghetto. So a lot of times it's really not about bars when it comes to some of those things. So I say all of that to say, you know, you may look at Master P as cheap album covers with jewelry all on it and thrones and stuff like that. And, you know, a grill, the old gold grill with the frames on, glasses on. And, you know what I'm saying? You may look at him as a character of a time that's passed, but there's a lot that brother did behind the scenes and went through that would make a biopic about him extremely interesting and profitable for the old music. And Ghetto Dope was a dope album. So, real quick, I just want to say, you know, the whole Kendrick Lamar situation was crazy because he put out a video, right, called Humble. And within that video, he talked about how, you know, what happened to women just being who they are in videos and not being, you know, dressed up looking a certain way. And if you watch enough videos, you know exactly what he's talking about. And also whatever happened to women who, you know, who bodies aren't, you know, loaded with all types of shots and implants and all types of things like that. And you know, what happened to women who just had the natural just stretch marks. Well, there's a lot of women, feminists for the most part, that, and not just women, I won't say that took offense to that. And this is all I have to say on it. I don't know how. For so many years, so many women have complained about, and some men complained about images in rap videos painting women as just this. And when a man just takes that step, a black man, to say, I miss this. I want the woman I see walking to work. I want the natural woman. I don't want this Frankenstein project that was put together and put in front of me to be my desire as a young black male or male, period. I want natural women, you know what I'm saying, in my videos and doing this and that. So I don't really see what the issue is. Maybe it's a deeper issue, but in today's society, no one's ever going to be truly satisfied, to be honest. On another Kendrick note, the album didn't drop today, of course, but it is going to drop on April 14th, which is next Friday. And lastly, I want to talk about Joey Badass's brand new album, All-Amerikkkan Bada. And I just give it up to the brother. I just want to give it up. One of the best of 2017. I don't care what you have to say. I feel like the brother has found his footing. When he first came out, I was so on him because he sound way too much like somebody from the 90s. Like I just found Doc Brown from, Back to the Future and was like, yo, let's go to the 90s and get this cat and bring him here. And the music just sounded like it was from the early 90s. And then with his last album, it was too much of him trying to shed that side and go in the lane of, of the music that you hear now, that people like now for a dude that's his age. This album is a balance between the two, and it's a perfect balance. And that's just talking about flows and styles, right? What makes this album excellent is his commitment to the content, which is in that lane of To Pimp a Butterfly without sounding exactly like To Pimp a Butterfly, meaning it's politically charged. It's not just about the rights of black males. It's about the rights of women, males, Muslims. It's about the real America that exists in the people. You know what I'm saying? And I thought is brilliant. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not, you don't feel like, oh, he's trying to do like Kendrick did. It doesn't sound anything like that. Oh, he's not really making that boom bap. It's plenty of that on there. The album is dope. I can't recommend it anymore. I've already listened to it like 3 times, and that's not necessarily listening to it to see if I like it. I listened to it 3 times already because I do like it. And it's just that dope. So Joey Bada, All-Amerikkkan Bada, that is out now. I suggest you check it out. Leave your comments in the comment section. If you heard it, do you like it? Do you even like Joey Bada? What? Leave your comments about anything that was mentioned in this podcast. That's going to do it for me for this week. You can follow me on social media at Vegas World INC, or if Facebook is your bag, facebook.com/hiphop right now. This podcast is available on iOS, Android podcast, of course, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, Podbean, and soundcloud.com/hiphoppolitic, where the hop and the politics share the P, and of course, right here on Death Star Radio, DSR.FM. Until next week, y'all, I am not a critic, I'm a fan. Peace.
Drop it on the random.